Good morning. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez.
And I'm Bobby McNeely on a rainy day here in Auburn, Alabama.
That's right. Well, we know up in New York City, a huge press conference today, just called by the Trump camp just last night. So we know it's at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We have a camera inside Trump Tower there, Bobby, and a number of people are wondering what's the press conference all about? Is it just kind of to set the record straight against the false narrative?
Right.
What could it be? I mean, possibly about the September 18th sentencing as well.
Yeah, so much going on in the news right now, and day by day, I mean, really ever since July 21st and even before July 13th, the assassination attempt, and then you have Biden leaving the presidential race. This is really an amazing narrative happening week by week in a few short weeks. What's going on in the presidential race, truly unbelievable, and President Trump holding his own and courageously persevering.
Exactly. It seems like 5 years of news have happened in, what, a month or two? I mean, there's just a lot going on each day, as you guys know. So we will have that live press conference at 12 o'clock. Later today at 2 o'clock, we'll also have another live stream of the North Carolina coverage for the Fraternal Order of Police. So President Trump will go from Trump Tower, New York, to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then he'll speak later today at 4 o'clock as well.
He's nonstop on the campaign trail, as you're seeing, prepping for the debate next week with Vice President Harris. And a big note, he's really racking up all of these police union endorsements, whether it be state groups, localities, even the National Fraternal Order of Police. So exciting to see that he is the law and order candidate, something that was contrasted in the June 27th debate when President Biden was in the race, saying that President Biden saying he had the support of law enforcement and Border Patrol. Of course, we know the Border Patrol tweeted out immediately, no, that's not the case. And you're seeing that with a number of different agencies.
So not only that, just on the personal level, a lot of the law enforcement, as you guys, as you guys know, when President Trump pulls up in Trump Force One, when he comes down off those stairs, you see all of the law enforcement usually posing with President Trump, taking photos with him. So you know that there is a personal connection, a professional connection, but also we want law and order back in this nation.
No question. He takes that time to meet with people. It reminds me of when he was president at the Air Force Academy graduation. He really appreciates anyone in uniform, whether that is our local police, state police, or the military. And I remember he mentioned that the generals were talking to him and he said, well, what do I do here? Do I shake the hand of the valedictorian, of the person who was last in class, which presidents have done in the past? And they said, well, sir, you can shake everyone's hand if you want to. He said, let's do that. And he stayed the entire time, saluted and shook hands of the cadets and the new graduates of the Air Force Academy. So someone who has a deep compassion for our men and women in uniform.
Exactly. Always good to see that. And of course, the military, I believe, obviously supports the real commander-in-chief, President Trump. Unfortunately, it's some of the leadership within the military ranks, but that's for another day. Now, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch, he posted this on X just last night. He said, update, at Real Donald Trump, the legal team files urgent appeal for U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit to prevent corrupt, compromised, and conflicted New York judicial system from ignoring the U.S. Supreme Court and jailing Trump. I'll get into the quote there in a second. So the point is, today's press conference, that may shed some light on why President Trump, of course, it's in New York where the so-called sentencing, Lawfare sentencing will happen. Mm-hmm. Will this be what he tackles today, among other topics? I believe that will be the case.
Probably going to focus keenly in on this, and yesterday we saw the Economic Club of New York, an economic policy speech, but President Trump is able to, in a beautiful and brilliant way, there's so many issues at hand, not only in politics, but in the American culture, and he's able to touch on these at almost every appearance he makes. He's really an impressive individual.
As he's mentioned at some of those rallies, he talks about 9 different things, but he can weave it all together to make and not forget about any of the points. It's pretty awesome to see that. Let me just finish one statement, and we'll get over to Birch Gold Group. We know that there was a quote from Tom Fitton. I believe he's quoting the Trump team here. I'll correct that if there's any mistake there. But I do know that Tom Fitton yesterday also said, unlawfully incarcerating President Trump in the final weeks weeks of the presidential election while early voting is ongoing would irreparably harm the First Amendment rights of President Trump and voters located far beyond New York County. So that Tom Fitton there with Judicial Watch, who of course is a conservative rock star in the movement. But so today we'll see how that press conference goes at 12 o'clock, as we are just mere days away from the debate, but also the September 18th Lawfare sentencing. Hopefully that will be shifted somewhere else. And you know, at the end of the day, we know it's just lawfare. Every ounce of it, Bobby, is just lawfare.
There's no question about it. They've used RICO laws to try to take down former President Trump, at least in Fulton County with Fani Willis. And then you see situations where it's amazing. I think there's liberal privilege, if you will, with some of these George Soros DAs, because you have situations where Fani Willis showed up with her boyfriend. Her daughter was arrested actually yesterday on a suspended license. We've now seen President Joe Biden's son Hunter pleading guilty on felony charges. It must be nice if you're next of kin or children of some of these far left DAs or members of the Democrat Party. You seem to get somewhat of a pass, but if you're President Trump, you have to go through what the George Soros prosecutors are attempting to do, and it is, quite frankly, lawfare. We're thankful for people like Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch.
Definitely. All right, so let's get to Birch Gold Group before we go live there to New York City. You can see that free fight silver coin. If you purchase a product through Birch Gold Group, let's both hold up the silver coin here. You got the White House, as you said yesterday, on the back. And then what's on the front there, Bobby?
On the front we have fight, as President Trump said, fight, fight, fight. And then July 13th, 2024, memorializing the attempted assassination. And thank God that President Trump was safe from that. The iconic photo with his Secret Service detail, American flag in the back, and him raising that fist. Wow, two iconic photos, and now one enshrined onto this brilliant silver coin for collection, or something that will probably be very, very valuable in a few short years.
100%. So all you have to do to get the ball rolling is text Trump to 989898. You see that number there on your screen. Of course, it's all about gold, silver, precious metals being a backup plan to the fluctuating U.S. dollar, of course, with those BRICS nations out there.
Exactly, and that's the thing about the petrodollar. Now, President Trump spoke on that yesterday to the Economic Club of New York, that we cannot lose the petrodollar being the world's currency, but Saudi Arabia now trading with these BRICS nations, and so this can affect the middle class, there's no question. So being able to convert a 401k or IRA, or just simply diversify tax sheltered accounts into tangible gold, silver, precious metals, so important to do. We fortunately had Philip Patrick here last week, and he's a regular on our show, just to talk about how important this is to take care of yourself financially and secure the future for your family.
Text Trump to 989898. All right, so we're here at 10:44 Eastern here in Alabama, of course, Central Time in Alabama. If you're waking up out there on the West Coast, man, 7:44 in the morning. But here's the point. President Trump to speak at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 p.m. on the East Coast. You see the live picture there from New York City. That's Trump Tower right there on Fifth Avenue. We were talking about Trump Tower yesterday a little bit. Of course, being on 5th and Central Park East there. President Trump just yesterday was in New York, of course. Now they're at Trump Tower, and then on his way to North Carolina later today.
He is nonstop, he is on the move, and he is definitely ready to be the 47th President of the United States. And that's what's so interesting about this race, is that you have such a contrast. In the past, we had people running on their experience saying, I can do this and this, but we actually have a former president who's done the job, who made the promises, kept the promises, delivered for the American people. Of course, we have Agenda 47, in which we refer to the top 20 promises adopted by the Republican National Committee at their convention in middle of July. And what a stark contrast. This is not your traditional Republican versus Democrat. It's liberty versus tyranny, capitalism versus communism. And we're here at Right Side Broadcasting helping you to make that decision for yourself ultimately, but by bringing you real news, by bringing you the coverage from beginning, middle, and end of all that President Trump does, even when it's a quick press conference that he'll throw into, I got a couple more things to say to the press. I think this is now number 36 between the Trump-Vance team. Still only one interview or press conference between Harris and Waltz, and that was CNN with Dana Bash.
Exactly. So a lot to hide, it seems like, on the left, with not being revealed of what they are really about moving forward for this country. And speaking of real news, job numbers are down under the current administration. Check this out. Over the over the past year, 1.3 million native-born Americans lost employment. So that's 1.3 million. While 1.2 million foreign-born workers gained employment. So people that are born in America lost 1.3 million jobs, and then 1.2 gained by those that were not born here. Now, here's the point. Nothing against immigration. It's all about the illegal aspect that the Trump administration, part 2, would take care of.
Well, and that's the amazing point, Matthew, because even when you look at legal immigration and how gracious this country is, just put aside for a moment the illegal immigration that's affecting our economy so poorly. People are being murdered by illegal aliens causing so many crimes. You have fentanyl pouring over the border, coming in from China through the Mexican border with the cartels. But look at legal immigration for a moment. H-1B visas. It does put people at an advantage versus those American-born at times because of, look at tech jobs, for example. You have a lot of Indian Americans coming here who are really contributing at a high level, but you have people suffering in certain ways, not being able to have access to certain jobs because of our current immigration system. And now more than ever needs a major overhaul. And President Trump saw this back in 2015. He was the candidate who came down the golden escalator saying, we need to fix this system. And all the public pundits, all the consultants said, no, don't touch it. And he had the wherewithal to jump right in and attack that head on.
I'm not sure if we could actually show the golden escalators there in Trump Tower. I believe they are right to the left of our camera ops vantage point there. So maybe we could take a look a little bit later at the golden escalators right there in Trump Tower. Of course, President Trump to field some questions from the press there at 12 o'clock Eastern. We are about an hour and 12 minutes from that point. But of course, if any news breaks, we'll have it here as well. Now, we know we're about 60 days from the election. There was another story that I saw pretty recently out of the state of California. A former California state senator and former Democrat majority leader, Gloria Romero, has left the party and has decided to vote for President Trump. Another state senator did that as well. So kind of a bigger story within state politics that someone that was the Democrat majority has decided to leave that party, the Democrats, and go and vote for MAGA.
Pretty remarkable considering the one-party rule that's happened to the Golden State and the fact that they've taken what was a middle-class tax haven in California and in roughly 75 years completely changed it into just a communist cesspool. And you look at California on its own, it has competed on the world stage as the 8th largest economy if it was still its own country. And it has so many natural resources. It's beautiful. Tech and Hollywood. Georgia, now my adopted home state, has been the recipient and the beneficiary of much of Hollywood and much of the tech world simply because we have a better tax system and are a much more business-friendly state. And it's brought some interesting voting patterns, there's no question, but people wanting to do business in Georgia rather than California as more and more people do leave the Golden State, which once was the beacon and the hope for Western explorers. If you look to the 19th century or even in the 1950s, again, a middle-class tax haven, Hollywood, tech world, it is no longer the case.
All right. Also, on top of that, before we get to one of our next sponsors, I mean, you think about brain drain, right? When it's people in their 20s, 30s, maybe some just out of college, leave a state. That's called brain drain, right? You usually would talk about maybe other states. I'm not going to name any right now, but you wouldn't think of California and New York as having a brain drain problem because those are like the old meccas of great work, New York and LA.
Exactly.
But we know that now Texas and Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Arizona are gaining, as you mentioned, a lot of really good workers out there. So let's, speaking of really good workers, MyPillow.com, Mike Lindell, always doing great things for the country and also has a great business with some awesome products, as many of you guys know. So if some of the slippers you've had for years, if you want a new pair or if you never had them before, go ahead and reach out to Mike Lindell by going to mypillow.com/RSBN. Bobby, 80% off, always good.
I mean, you can't beat this guy. He's a master marketer. President Trump has said that time and again. If I could market like Mike Lindell, I might be able to sell a little bit better, but the marketing skills, there's nothing like it. And an American-made product, a man who's doing such great work. We had the privilege of interviewing him last week. I wonder how quickly his mustache is coming back. He went undercover at the DNC to get some great footage, which will be coming out soon. But he's extended his Labor Day mattress sales. You can see there, save up to 50% plus an additional $100 off on these mattresses for $439, up to 80% off of everything in the store. MyPillow.com/RSBN. Mike Lindell, a great man working hard for election integrity, focused on just bringing the truth out there and unafraid to break bread with those who might disagree. I think about his time going on Jimmy Kimmel, and he was so gracious to Mr. Kimmel, not so much in the other direction, Mr. Kimmel towards Mike Lindell, but we're grateful for Mike Lindell and thankful for MyPillow. I enjoy using MyPillow myself, the pillows specifically. They help me get a good night's rest.
So it's always good. Great products, mypillow.com. Maybe we'll get some products right here in the studio to show you next time as well. But speaking of Kimmel, he's on ABC, but fake news ABC 4 days from now, of course, has the presidential debate. All right, so here are some of the ABC News debate rules. Muted mics, no live studio audience, only a pen, paper, and water on stage, and no pre-written notes. A lot of rules there with ABC News. Pretty similar to fake news CNN. The whole no live studio audience,
right.
I don't know. I'd love to hear the audience cheer or jeer or whatever.
And it's sad because the spin room makes it a little bit more fun. I was looking at photos from June 27th, and people would hold their signs traditionally, even some of my friends in the YRs back in Atlanta, and it was rather odd because just a few people were allowed in the spin room rather than many pundits. And you had, of course, Governor Kemp there, Governor Newsom. You had others, Sean Hannity there covering that for Fox, but it wasn't the traditional kind of feel like it was a playoff game, because we equate this a lot to sports, being that it's now football season in full swing as of yesterday professionally, college last couple of weeks, high school, of course, back at home. But this will be interesting to see with this new style of debate. The one thing I'm very happy with the muted mics is the fact that Vice President Kamala Harris probably won't be able to try what she did with then Vice President Mike Pence, if you recall, of the "please don't interrupt me, you're interrupting me," as she's interrupting him.
Well, the part that really irks some people, I saw it yesterday as well, is she says, "I'm speaking."
Right.
To talk down to somebody and say, "I'm speaking." Well, you can say I'm speaking all you want, but if what's coming next is all false and lies and propaganda and communist ways,
right.
You know what I mean? Go ahead and speak a little bit. Go ahead. Share your thoughts with us, because that's what we're looking for.
Exactly. And that's what I enjoyed, that moment where I thought that was the knockout punch from then Vice President Pence regarding, he said to her, you know, Senator Harris, you are entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your own set of facts. He just let that breathe for a minute as she was saying, "Stop speaking over me." But she'll keep repeating that as no one's speaking over her. So, I mean, how can she handle this with people like Xi Jinping and Little Rocket Man and Vladimir Putin? Can she really go toe-to-toe with these straw men throughout the world, these dictators who clearly want global dominance?
Exactly. They're the ones that will be laughing and not Kamala Harris, because they'd be laughing behind her back, let's be real. Maybe to her face. I mean, she is, in my opinion, an absolute joke to be a president. It could be anybody, man, woman, doesn't matter color of skin, but what matters is the actions, right? So we don't want to have someone that is going to take our country so far left. Even Democrats, as I mentioned earlier, if you're just joining us, a former California state senator and former Democrat Majority Leader Gloria Romero has left the party and has decided to vote for President Trump. So that's in California. The former Democratic leader there of the whole state. There's The amount of Democrats versus Republicans in the legislature in California is unbelievable. It's
it's
there's
a
only a
supermajority.
few. Yeah, it's only a few.
It's very hard based on the maps and how they draw the lines out there for Republicans to make their play. And because it is the most populous state, you still have the most Republicans registered there. Here's the problem. In some counties, 2-1, 3-1, in some 4-1, where Democrats are outnumbering the Republicans. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have people like Lita Romero, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. I mean, these are great traditional liberal Democrats who have fought for free speech, who have fought for clean rivers, clean water, clean air, who truly put their money where their mouth is and fight for those principles that matter to all Americans, regardless of party. Liz Cheney, she's endorsed Kamala Harris. There's a reason why she's doing that, is because she wants endless wars. It lines the pockets of those who are friends of Liz Cheney. It also helps people like her father, who was at Halliburton. They want war to happen because they end up making money as a result. It doesn't matter so much party. These are principled liberal Democrats, and if there's any Democrats watching at home, you're welcome to the MAGA movement. I think that's what has been proven in the last couple of weeks. And Bobby Kennedy mentioned it brilliantly. MAGA means bringing these 20 platform principles to the American people, saving the middle class, and making America healthy again in the process.
And from the 30,000-foot view, freedom, truth, our Constitution, and for our country to continue on in that way. So MAGA, the freedom movement, the conservative movement, it's all one and the same. It's all moving forward for our country. Before we move on and talk more about, of course, today's press conference in New York, there'll be a lot of news items, I'm sure, out of today's press conference. We do want to thank you, the viewer, as RSBN is viewer supported, but also, of course, a lot of sponsors out there that are great here at Right Side. But all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801. You see that number there on your screen. If you'd like to donate in any way, it's always good, because obviously we've got crews all across the country, right? Lights, camera, action, right? We want to show you everything from the people to the president. And if you love what you see at Right Side, go ahead and text RSBN to 801-801. And if you can't do anything right now, we totally understand. That's why MAGAnomics needs to be back, if you know what I mean.
And we thank you so much for it. We appreciate it so much. But like President Trump says, if it's a little bit tight right now, don't worry about it. But if you could spare a few dollars, we really do appreciate it, because we're up against corporate oligarchs. We're up against a corporate entrenched media that is failing simply because they're not telling the truth. We have people like fake ABC News who will probably be very hostile towards President Trump next week. That's just the way he has to deal with it. So he's going up into the lion's den against not only rivals, but enemies in this case, enemies of America, who clearly have an agenda. And that's why here at Right Side, we want to bring you unbridled coverage from beginning, middle, and end, and actually talk to the people who attend these rallies. And it's so interesting, because really, my experience with this is that the American people have a lot of common sense. They care about their country, and in the recent years, coming to the MAGA movement, being inspired by President Trump, they want to make a difference in their communities.
Exactly. So all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801. And Bobby, as you were talking there, I was thinking about the ABC News debate. I think that they don't like President Trump's policies more than they don't like him as the person. So
Right.
It's policy over personality. Sure, they don't like the guy, but they hate the fact that he stands for freedom. They do not like the fact that he holds on to that U.S. flag and the U.S. Constitution and wants that to be what we stand on here in this country. Isn't that interesting, though?
Oh, it is, because he's the ultimate outsider. And if you look at his career in business, his career, working with Hollywood and The Apprentice, everyone wanted to talk to him. They would rush up to him, every media outlet. Mr. Trump, what do you think about this? And that's why I'm getting a kick out of his books, his picture book series. First it was Our Journey Together, then Letters to Trump,
Awesome.
And now Save America coming out as well. But the Letters to Trump was really quite poignant. The positive letters he's gotten over the years from politicians to friends like Oprah and entertainers in that industry who have really turned their backs on him since he just wanted to do what was right for America. It's an interesting time.
It is, and my birthday is September 18th, and of all days, of course, hopefully the sentencing's moved off of that, and President Trump wins the White House. But the point is, the Save America book, I texted my wife and the family, I said, guys, pre-order this, I want the Save America book. How awesome is the front cover of that book? It says Save America, so obviously if you want to get that book, you can look for it out there. But you know, the letters to Trump was awesome, and I loved at the end of that book was a letter from President Trump to the American people. Isn't that awesome?
Very special. Harkens back to, we spoke yesterday on the Reagan movie, and Reagan's beautiful words as he said goodbye to the American people, of course, when he was diagnosed with the Alzheimer's, and the way he could put pen to paper so articulately. Very similar to President Trump's genuine love for this country and their policies. Whether you look at the 1980s, the late 2010s into the early 2020s now, a lot correlating between the two men, being outsiders, having private business careers, being successful in their own right, and then bringing that knowledge to the Oval Office, surrounding themselves with great subject matter experts. And that really is what the job is about as a chief executive. What is your ability to make those difficult decisions, allow the buck to stop with you, and then hold the people around you accountable? Vice President Kamala Harris has been asleep at the wheel for the last 3.5 years. She was the border czar. They're now alleging she was never the border czar, but we know this from even the Washington Post and New York Times articles from 2021. President Biden put her in charge of that. She has failed. We have 350,000 children we know of that have been lost and or trafficked over our border, fentanyl pouring in, people dying as a result. It's just so sad. She clearly is not ready for the American presidency.
Not even close to being ready, but one thing we like about President Trump, among many things, is the fact that he is not afraid.
Right.
If he's in the Situation Room, he's not afraid. He's not afraid to pick up the phone and talk to anybody out there. And then on top of that, have the natural people skills and the business skills to be able to connect with people that are so far, you know, doing terrible things. He's able to still connect with them to kind of control the situation. And that's what we have. We had actions speak louder than words. It's exactly what happened for those first 4 years under a Trump administration. All right, let's back off a little bit. We're talking a lot of serious stuff here right now, but it's just, you know, what's going on in the country, of course, as we await President Trump there in about an hour from now at 12 o'clock. But until then, we're going to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're not like the other media outlets out there that cut and edit what other people say. In 2015, we were created by our founder, Joe Seals, to cover President Donald J. Trump's speeches and rallies, to which we continue to do to this day. We've also covered important conservative events like CPAC, TPUSA, March for Life, and many other important events and hearings around the country. We were made for people like you, everyday Americans who are tired of the mainstream media. who are tired of being lied to, manipulated, and fed an agenda. Our goal here at Right Side Broadcasting is to allow you to see the truth, giving our correspondents and commentators a wide latitude to speak their minds. You won't find anything like this in the mainstream media. Your support through your donations, locals, and supporting our advertisers allows us to continue to cover important events around the country each and every day. So, from us here at Right Side Broadcasting, thank you for supporting us and the right side of history.
Hi folks, RSBN founder and CEO Joe Seals here. Did you know there is nearly $1 trillion of infrastructure and pandemic funds yet to be spent? That's right, there's a massive amount of money that the lame duck administration is pushing hard to spend in their last few months. If the president is able to push these funds out, we could see another prolonged inflation surge, just like during COVID. And I'm sure you remember the terrible effects that high prices had on most Americans. But there's hope. A surge in prices can be beaten. A gold IRA from Birch Gold Group is the ultimate inflation hedge for your savings in uncertain times. To see how to protect your IRA or 401k, get your free info kit on gold by texting the word Trump to 989898. Birch Gold makes it seamless to roll over your retirement account while preserving your tax advantage status. Don't wait for the president's spending spree to tank the dollar further. Protect your financial future now. Text Trump to the number 989898 for your free info kit from Birch Gold.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez.
And I'm Bobby McNeely, and we are breaking down the numbers today, ready for President Trump's press conference from Trump Tower in New York City in just under 1 hour from now.
Exactly. So a number of items I'm sure President Trump will get questions about, but will this be a big focus on the September 18th so-called Lawfare sentencing in New York? We haven't been told, but there's a lot of speculation out there as to the details of what will come out of this press conference. But of course, at the end of the day, anytime President Trump's out there, he is correcting the false narratives and all of the junk that the left wing is throwing out there on all of the airwaves and streaming and all that. So always good to have a press conference. And then, of course, later today at 4 o'clock, he'll be in Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll be live right here in the studio and have a camera there as well as he speaks to the Fraternal Order of Police. So kind of a press conference and law and order type of day.
Right, and he's racking up all of those endorsements from Fraternal Order of Police, whether it be the national organization, these state groups, localities, clearly the men and women in blue backing President Trump. And think about this, he's running for president with all of this lawfare going on, whether it's the Attorney General Letitia James in New York, or you think about deranged Jack Smith and what he has now put it in with a new series of indictments, or Fani Willis in Fulton County, Georgia, using the RICO laws to try and go after President Trump. Actually, her opponent, Courtney Kramer, a personal friend of mine who's running on the Republican side, she actually used this Fani Willis, these RICO statutes against Young Thug, the rapper who is behind bars, who has had a delayed trial. And Courtney has pledged to make sure that she does not use these so flawlessly, whimsically, just using these RICO laws against their original intention. And it's so important to note all of this, because how is President Trump able to do this? I think it's his willingness to serve and fight for the American people, a man of incredible perseverance.
A natural born leader, and someone that I believe God is with. I believe he's with this country, and I believe God is with many in the free world as well. So I was wondering about the actions speaking louder than words. You hear that phrase a lot, but after President Trump almost lost his life on July 13th, since then, all that we've been seeing is lawfare continue, the hate continue on the airwaves, no respect for human life. The actions speak louder than the words. They're showing you right now, instead of focusing on, wow, someone just might have gotten killed, they're showing how much disdain they have for freedom, for the country, for President Trump, and for a leader of a Republican Party. So we can't lose sight of how much they really don't like the Constitution of this country. They don't like the First Amendment and the Second Amendment.
Well, and we've seen that recently with this RT media case that is developing, where people like Benny Johnson and other podcasters, Tim Pool, people you'll see over on X and even True Social as well, who put out their own independent content. The Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, coming after these people, using lawfare in that regard, saying it's Russian disinformation. There seems to be this continuous narrative, and we'll see how that story pans out, but many people being targeted simply for using their First Amendment speech rights, and that can't happen in America. You shouldn't be targeted simply for what you believe or what you're putting out there as a commentator and as a journalist.
Well, if you look at the UK right now, there's a lot of censorship going on there. Why censor? That's my question. Why would you censor something? Are you afraid of free speech? Are you afraid of freedom of thought? Are you afraid of people loving God? Are you afraid of people voting for President Trump? What is wrong with that? There is nothing wrong with that. And so the left wing has been controlling the media narrative for so long that they don't like when there's somebody else that's a so-called dissenting voice, which that's not really, we're just sharing what our thoughts and feelings are. There's nothing wrong with that. Why be so afraid? That's the question. What are you afraid of? God? Are you afraid of Jesus? Are you afraid of Judeo-Christian beliefs? Are you afraid of the Bible? Are you afraid of the Constitution? Why censor the free world? What are you afraid of? Because it's nothing about violence. It's about love. It's about peace. It's about our country. It's about our faith, our family, our friends. So we are a pro-free speech network, and we stand with the Constitution. We stand with the Bible here, and we're going to keep on going, and we're going to keep on sharing the news with you. 12 o'clock, of course, President Trump will be sharing his thoughts there at a press conference with the left-wing media mainly. Of course, our camera's there. There's some conservative media there. But of course, as you know, a huge percentage of people that are not on the right side of history.
Absolutely. And Matthew, great comments, because it made me think about a liberal president who was known for his fireside chats, who was known for calling upon the almighty throne of God for our posterity, for our health, our general welfare, and that was FDR. And he mentioned in his inaugural that all we have to fear is fear itself. And that's so true in a day and age like this, because this anti-free speech really movement that I would call communist, I would call socialist, fascist to a certain extent, is all really something in the last 100 years we've dealt with. If you look at Nazi Germany or communist Soviet Russia and other states that succumbed to the siren song of totalitarianism, what did they do first? They removed the Bible, they shut down churches, they took a stance saying they were God, not the Almighty. And it's the same old record playing in this race, in this modern day here in America. And that's something that's so important to get out there and get involved in your communities and go and vote, because that's what it's about. Liberty versus tyranny, capitalism versus communism. And here at RSBN, we're going to give you that full coverage so you can make your choice and you can make your voices heard.
And the Bible says, fear not, for I am with you. So anytime there is a concern or a fear out there, fear not, for God is with you. So that's what I believe personally. We're allowed to share our opinions on this network. But let's switch gears and talk about something that's quite awesome. The silver gold, or the silver coin here with Birch Gold Group. You get one of these great free fight silver coins by working with Birch Gold Group. So you purchase a product through the group and you get one of these free coins. Kind of cool stuff, Bobby.
I love it. It has the White House on the back there, on the front. Fight. As you remember, President Trump saying fight, fight, fight when he lifted his fist into the air, the iconic photo with the American flag in the background, flanked by his Secret Service detail. So a piece of history, a great piece of memorabilia, and it's a pretty heavy silver coin, so a nice addition to your collection.
Definitely. So all you have to do is text Trump to 989898. Get that info kit to get the ball rolling to learn more about Birch Gold Group. All right, so we're looking at about 45 minutes from now until President Trump will be there at Trump Tower, at least on that floor. Of course, we know he's most likely in that building, a beautiful building there in New York on Fifth Avenue outside of Central Park. And it's great to see the golden escalators. If you ever get a chance, if you're visiting New York City, to go into Trump Tower, buy some gear at the Trump store. Very cool stuff. Do you have any Trump gear, any shirts, hats, any stuff like that?
Oh, lots of memorabilia. So I've been fortunate enough to go to a few of the golf courses for different events. I've been to Mar-a-Lago on one occasion with Turning Point USA, and that was a real blessing to be at the president's home. But each location has some campaign memorabilia, also just the Trump store and Trump Golf World, which I'm a big golfer myself, big golf fan, and he's made a large impact in the golf community, especially in professional golf and amateur golf, and President Trump perhaps being one of our best president golfers probably since Eisenhower. They all seem to have this, the American presidency, the modern American presidency really has a connection with golf, but Eisenhower and Trump probably being the top two. Doing that. So I have plenty at home, and I try to add to my collection, and sometimes I see something, especially with these vendors when we're out there covering the rallies, I'm like, I don't have that. No.
Well, you remember
Need to get
in
that.
Johnstown the other day with the red towel, the Trump
Right.
towel and the yellow Trump towel. I gave it away to the people, but I wish I would have held on to one of them, or at least bought another one. But yeah, there's so many great pieces of memorabilia out there. The hats, the shirts, all kinds of stuff. And we'll get to, I'm just making me think of MyPillow. We'll get to MyPillow in a little bit as well. So many great things, so many great products with MyPillow. All right, so back at it here in New York, of course. We're looking at a little bit of time yet until President Trump takes to the podium there. But later today, Bobby and I are going to be live here at 2 o'clock Eastern. President Trump will speak at 4 o'clock. This will be on a separate stream. He'll speak in Charlotte, North Carolina, to a fraternal order of police. So a very law and order heavy day. Yesterday was the economy right there in New York City with the Economic Club of New York. And then tomorrow, Wisconsin rally. Now the town is interesting. You spell it Mosinee, and I'm going to look up the pronunciation because I called, of all places, I wanted to know how to pronounce it right, so I called a pizza shop. I said, how do you pronounce your town there? And I believe it's Mosinee. So Mosinee is Mosinee. I didn't know. It could have been Mosinee or
You are
Mosinee.
100% correct, being a Midwesterner and having
Oh,
gone
so I'm
through
right?
that town multiple times.
It was
You're right.
Mosinee.
Unlike my Hoboken
Oh, yeah.
yesterday, it was more of I did a Midwest Hoboken.
Yes. So I called Bobby out live on the air yesterday. It was just quite awesome because he was talking about some serious point, and he's like, in Hoboken. And I'm like, wait, what'd you say?
It was a very Midwest of me to do that. So I'm sorry to my friends there. Frank Sinatra's hometown, Old Blue Eyes. I love that restaurant. A huge shout out where you can bring a beautiful date and sit along and see that gorgeous New York skyline. Something that President Trump has dominated with his own building, where he'll be presenting a press conference today. And wow, what a time to be in America with, gosh, we are right in the thick of it. We are less than 2 months until the 2024 presidential election.
Exactly. I mean, actually, today is day 60. So 60
Right.
days from today is November 5th, 2024. We know there's early voting. We know there's a number of states that are doing that as well. So however you're voting, here we go. You know, we said this yesterday as well. Some networks are saying, well, buckle up, it's election season. I'm like, where have you guys been? It's been 4 years of election season.
There's no question. It's the Super Bowl for us. We're getting into the last quarter of sales. We are right there in the thick of it. It's do or die, now or never. And that's why, you know, Jake Schneider actually put out a really important email from the Rapid Response Team. He's the director over at the Republican National Committee. The jobs reports revisions, much lower than expected in August. We lost 61,000 jobs in June, 25,000 in July, 86,000 fewer than in June and July combined. The economy added just 142,000 jobs in August. This is far lower than what economists expected. President Trump laid that out beautifully with the Economic Club of New York yesterday, where he presented to really big CEOs, CFOs, major power players. They did a question and answer session right after that, and President Trump delivering a scathing and scary policy-driven speech on the economy, also tying in the other promises he wants to make to not only secure America financially, but to secure its borders. And today, building on that with this press conference, but also to your point, Matthew, likely talking about those September 18th proceedings, the Lawfare, the Attorney General, Letitia James, who has just been atrocious to the Trump family, pushing this Lawfare narrative, pushing this narrative that they're undervaluing their properties. It has all been proven false. But of course, the fake news narrative trying to bring down the Trump family in the process.
What they're trying to bring down is that the Trump family, but also truth and freedom for our country. It's all tied together. They just don't like it and they want it to go away. Well, guess what? We the people are here. The majority of this country is a supporter of President Donald J. Trump. We've seen the signs in every state we've traveled to. We've seen the people from all walks of life, whether you're in the Bronx or Detroit or Philadelphia or Atlanta or in Phoenix, wherever you are. We know what the truth is, and the left, the leadership, and the mainstream press are trying to suppress that. No longer will that happen because we are continuing on, keeping the narrative alive here in this country. And of course, today with President Trump's great press conference there, I do want to touch on one economic issue before we go to our next sponsor. You were mentioning about the jobs numbers. Mm-hmm. And if you just joined us, over the last year, this is according to Team Trump on Truth Social, 1.3 million native-born Americans lost employment. This is over the past year, while 1.2 million foreign-born workers gained employment. So they're looking, of course, at the possibility of a lot of those numbers being from illegal immigrants in our country. Nothing wrong with immigration, right? Nothing wrong with anybody from any walk of life to have a job. Who cares? But when it's the illegal immigration problem, that's what this number is referring to.
Right, and this is a huge thing within, I've actually visited a number of AME churches, huge for the African American community when it comes to these numbers and access to jobs. And then let's take the legal side as well with H-1B visas. We are the most generous country in the world, and that's why we need a serious overhaul of our immigration policies. I was telling you, Matthew, off air yesterday, I had brunch after church just a couple weeks ago with a French-Canadian gentleman who's now living in the Bahamas, and he's doing tech work. He's working in the crypto sphere and really a great entrepreneur, only 27, but this gentleman was telling me how strict the Bahamian immigration laws are, and that really he won't be able to gain full citizenship there for a long period of time because he has to work towards it, and there are checks and balances just as every country has. We are truly the most generous, and we want people to come here. Want people to come here legally, not only for their safety, but because they'll contribute to the American people and in turn become American. I really can't think of any other country. Sure, many have freedom because of the way we've inspired the world, but let's think about this for a moment. You can be born anywhere in the world and become an American. We have an American flag just behind the camera there, and really embrace that red, white, and blue. It can bleed through your veins just as a native-born person can, and something that the left tries to manipulate and divide on their fake news telecasts. We're going to celebrate that here at RSBN.
100%. I remember interviewing a guy from Sri Lanka who is here as a legal citizen at one of the rallies, and you were talking about the flag. He had the American flag wrapped around him. We interviewed him live right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I don't remember, to be honest, if it was Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, which state it was, but I do remember the interview. And he was talking about how happy he is to be in this country, and that people that are coming here illegally, they have to do it the right way. You can't come here the wrong way. So that's it's simple stuff, right? It's not rocket science, but at the end of the day, we need to have our borders protected. We don't want to have a number of people that are on watch lists here. We have to have citizenship in the sense of IDs, right? Driver's license, birth certificate, social security card, on and on and on. And to vote as well, you have to have these kind of things. And the thought of a non-citizen being able to influence our election. Talk about election interference. It's a non-citizen voting in the millions that could sway an election. That's horrible, right? And on top of that, the Venezuelan gangs that we're seeing in Aurora, Colorado, and in Chicago, Illinois.
Terrible thing happening with the lawlessness and the crime. And Nancy Pelosi even slipped recently. She's on Bill Maher's show, and she talked about motor voter and said, we want these people to then own homes and then to get that license and then to go and vote. And she really laid out the left's game plan without people going through the proper channels to become citizens. They have incentivized illegal immigration, and it's harmed people. It's caused human trafficking, whether that's work and labor trafficking or, God forbid, sex trafficking with young children especially. It's a horrible thought. President Trump has said the Republican Party is the party of common sense. These 20 platform principles, Agenda 47, adopted by the RNC, put into action. He has put the Chinese Communist Party on notice. We've lost hundreds of thousands of people to fentanyl poisoning. And he said, enough. If you continue to do that and pour that through the cartels and our border, you will have to pay the piper. And they fear and respect President Trump. He mentioned it yesterday, I think with Viktor Orban as well, that they, oh my gosh, they feared me. He goes, I'd like more to have respect, but it's gone both ways. And that's what you need in the American presidency in a leader like Donald Trump.
Number one for the GOP platform out of the 20 promises, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. That's not only to keep the borders for our country, but also to slow down and stop crime, illegal immigrant crime as well. And of course, later today, we're going to talk about law and order. President Trump speaking with the Fraternal Order of Police in North Carolina. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But we are on a RSBN out of nowhere doubleheader today, Bobby.
So much fun, and that's the great energy of the Trump campaign. It can be called last minute, but we'll be here for you to bring you wall-to-wall coverage. And how do we do that? We need good rest and good sleep. And the way to do that is by going to our friend Mike Lindell over at MyPillow. He's extended his Labor Day mattress sale, as you can see there, $439 on a restful, delightful mattress. Visit mypillow.com/RSBN for up to 80% off of everything. What a master marketer.
He's awesome. I mean, and he's got all the commercials and the ads out there. But the thing is, he's not only spending money on that to show his product, but what if he did that and the products weren't any good? That's not the case. The products are actually that good. I know my wife and I, we have a number of them. I know you have a number of them as well. And so can you. I know a lot of you probably already do, but guess what? Get some more. And if you don't, go to mypillow.com/RSPN. Get that 80% off of everything, which is a pretty good percentage off there. So mypillow.com, as we're slowly getting towards the Christmas season.
It's going to be here before we know it. Oh my goodness. And I can't wait for Christmas. It's truly the best time of year. It's going to be a great reflection on what's taken place this past year. And God willing, a large victory for President Trump. He's going to fight, as he has been doing, the last decade now, since he came down that golden escalator just to the side of where the podium is today, to take on a corrupt deep state. You know, he always talked about, I knew it was bad, I didn't know it was this bad. And the outsider, the businessman, the American citizen, the apprentice star, Donald John Trump, just a boy from Queens with a vision, learned from the best business from his father and took the Trump organization into a realm that only a true American could really dream about. But he used that doing hard work and being good to people, and by bringing people to the table, whether that be big businessmen, labor unions, working with everybody in between, making New York City a better city in the process, and now him taking on the world stage and seeking to become the 47th president of the United States.
And speaking of people, the people are with President Trump. President Donald Trump is not alone in this fight. There are countless, hundreds of millions, I believe more than 100 million in this country, and then there's a lot out there in the world too that are on Team Trump, because Team Trump stands for Team Freedom and Team Constitution and Team Truth. So there's a lot of people standing with President Donald J. Trump, including all of the great patriots that are running for office or that are already in office, like Matt Gaetz, MTG, and Byron Donalds and others, and like Kari Lake, who's running for Senate, and Abe Hamadeh, and Hung Cao in Virginia, all these great people. So he's not in this alone. We are with him, and that's what I can feel, that passion even now as I speak, because I remember when we covered that event in Butler, Pennsylvania, and when he said fight, fight, fight in the crowd, man, it was just such a strong feeling of camaraderie, of patriotism, of love, nothing of violence, more of, hey, we're going to fight, we're going to pray hard, we're going to work hard, we're going to get this country won. But we are hoping that it's not, you know what, stolen. So we're going to do the best we can. God be with us, and let's win in November.
Too big to rig, swamp the vote. You have to get out there. You have to make a plan. And number 19 on that policy platform, whether it is early voting, absentee voting, the day of, just make that plan, execute that plan, get it done. Because that's the funny thing is, too, the Trump campaign realized in the last couple of cycles at rallies, roughly 30% or so of all rally goers ended up not voting, whether it be in the primary elections, general elections in their respective states, and even being there covering this. You're seeing so much with Trump Force 47. You can visit them at TrumpForce47.com, learn how to become a precinct captain, get out there and make a difference for your community. But they're registering voters, they're getting the vote out, which is crucial to all of these different campaign events. And don't rest on our laurels. If you're in a deep blue state, go vote for President Trump there. If you're in a deep red state, go vote for President Trump there. And especially if you're in one of these swing states, 20 counties that could sway the presidential election, go out and vote. The last one, regardless of what was sinister, what was fraud, what was a stolen election, as Matthew just mentioned, it was still only 20,000 votes, give or take. That's roughly a football stadium, less than the size of some of our college stadiums, that made the difference in the last election. So go out there, make your voice be heard.
11:31 a.m. Eastern Time. We're about half an hour away from President Trump there at the press conference in New York City. This press conference, we just found out about it last night around 8:30 Eastern. So we knew we were going to be here today for 2 p.m. coverage Eastern in North Carolina for President Trump's speech there to the Fraternal Order of Police in Charlotte. He'll speak at 4 o'clock later today, so we'll be on a different broadcast, a different stream on Rumble, on YouTube, on the app, wherever you're watching. We'll see you there at 2 o'clock on that stream. But obviously we're here live, and we'll be here throughout this press conference. And Bobby, it'll be quite interesting to hear right there again in the so-called belly of the beast, New York City, where 90% at least, or probably more than 90% of the left-wing press is going to try and do gotcha questions and that. And there's nothing to get with President Trump. You already know where he stands, and all you could throw at him are lying questions and false narrative all day long.
And by my count, this is number 36, I believe, for the Trump-Vance team, whether that is friendly media or faux media. Just he goes into the belly of the beast with corporate media, cable, everybody to speak and communicate with the American people. The Harris-Walz campaign has had one interview, and it was the two of them together with CNN's Dana Bash. And that's been it, folks. That's the difference between the Trump campaign and the Harris campaign. President Trump is unafraid of going in for the difficult questions to get his message out to the American people, working around the clock, on top of all of the different podcasts, all of the different culture points he's making with many influencers. And it looks like we have President Trump coming to the podium right now in Trump Tower, New York City.
This is a long and complicated web and story, but it all goes back to the DOJ and Kamala and Sleepy Joe and all the rest of them. We have a whole rigged election system. Nobody's ever seen anything like what's happening. Now I understand. Yesterday they're bringing up Russia again, that they've done for years. Never found anything. But they should be looking at China, Iran, and lots of other places. I haven't spoken to anybody from Russia in years. They know that, but it's a scam. But it all goes back to the DOJ because we had a trial today. It's an appeal of a ridiculous verdict of a woman I have never met. I don't know. I have no idea who she is. She wrote a book and she made a ridiculous story up. She put it in her book, and we're now appealing the decision. We had an extremely hostile judge appointed by Clinton, very good friends of Clinton. I guess he presided over the marriage ceremony of one of the lawyers on the case against us. And it's very sad. Judge Lewis Kaplan, angry man. He was so angry. I went to the trial. I've been in a lot of litigation over the years. I've never seen such anger, or wanted to throw one of our attorneys in jail, who threatened her with jail. Nobody's ever seen anything like it over nothing. I've never seen such anger, but all of our judges, I mean, we had a brilliant judge, and I think a very fair judge in Florida. I think we have another judge who's very fair. I just ask for fair. I don't want anything different from anybody else. I just ask for fairness. We have another judge or a couple of judges that I think are fair. Then we have other judges that I think the whole thing is, I think the system is a disgrace. The case that we met on today, and then we're going to talk about job numbers, which are horrible, by the way, horrible, like really bad. And you know that. I'm sure you won't report on it, but the job numbers are terrible. We're going to talk about the appeal today. We had a great appellate lawyer go down representing us, and I think John did a very good job. You have a matter of minutes to speak. It's a very complex thing because it was a setup, a rigged deal. They had two witnesses. And before I start, I have no idea who this woman is. They have a picture from, they say, about 40 years ago, a picture. And the picture depicts her and her husband on a celebrity line where I was the celebrity. I've been a celebrity for a long time. And they were shaking my hands along with hundreds of other people. Nobody even knows where it is. The problem is she doesn't know the date of this incident. She doesn't know when. She doesn't know, was it in the 90s? Could it have been further than that? She has no idea when. And people do that because you don't want to give a specific date and then you find out that Trump or whoever it was in Europe. So they tend to do that. They take long periods so that this way, hopefully he was in New York at that time. But this is a disgraceful case, and disgraceful in particular because it's about a former president of the United States who is now leading in the polls to be the president again. And this is being worked with the DOJ, Department of Justice, as are all of these cases. They all come out. Atlanta, Fani, that is all Department of Justice. Nobody knew that. The case with Judge Engoron, the most overturned judge in the state, that is very close because they sent their team from the DOJ to help him. The district attorney, Alvin Bragg, that was all worked with. Again, they sent a top operative from the department, from the DOJ Department of, I call it the Department of Injustice, because they're using the Department of Justice to rig the campaign. These cases are disgraceful. Now, they're brought, for the most part, in front of very hostile areas where Republicans get 3 or 4%, like downtown Manhattan, in front of very hostile judges, like you wouldn't believe. Judge Mershon, Judge Engoron, and Judge Kaplan, all of them hostile areas and very, very hostile judges. I've never seen anything like it. And very bad thing in this case, New York, very bad thing for New York. Businesses won't come to New York because of what took place with Judge Engoron. I can tell you that. And probably the rest of them also. But this case involved a woman who wrote a book, and I guess she said something in the book. That's when I first heard about it. I first heard about it in the White House. And, of course, I denied the story because it's not true. I have no idea who the woman is. and I never met her. Now, I don't know about a picture that was taken 40 years ago with her husband on a celebrity line, so I don't think that counts. But as far as I know, I never met her. I never touched her. I would have had no interest in meeting her in any way, shape, or form. Her husband was a news anchor, actually, John Johnson, a very nice guy. She called him horrible things. We weren't allowed to say that in the trial. She said horrible things about him. I guess they're since divorced. He's a very nice guy, African-American, and she said very bad things. We weren't allowed to use that in the trial, which surprised a lot of people. But she made up a story, it fabricated 100%, that I attacked her at Bergdorf Goodman. You know, it's very interesting. I don't think they were allowed to use this either. Her favorite show is Law and Order. And there's a almost exact story as her story in Law and Order about being attacked in the dressing room of a department store. I don't know if they used the name of the store. But that's her favorite show, Law and Order. She said that. And anyway, this evolved into a defamation case against me because I disputed her words because I told the truth. We were called. I was in the White House, and I said, no, it never happened. I didn't even know what they were talking about. This was, I think I was in the Oval Office. Sir, do you know anything about this? And this had to do with the book, and she had a few pages in a book making this claim. By the way, there was never a claim. There was never a police report. There was never anything mentioned. There was never publicity 30 or 40 years ago, whenever it took place. Nobody knows. She doesn't know when it took place. When did it take place? She has no idea. She thinks it was in the 1990s. She thinks it was in the 1990s. And the judge, we had two trials. We asked for a consolidation. He said no. The reason he said no is he'd rather have double the publicity because that's bad for me. Very bad, because I'm running for president. And this is not the kind of publicity you like. And whether it's true or not, it's horrible. And in this case, it's so false. It's a made-up, fabricated story by somebody, I think, initially just looking to promote a book. And when they called me, I denied the story. I got sued essentially for defamation because I'm denying a story where I'm right. I should be suing her for defamation. So that's where it is. Now, there were two witnesses. One is a woman who's followed me for years. She said in 1979, I was in an airplane with her, commercial flight, and we became very intimate. I just sat down. I think I had the book, The Art of the Deal. I was famous then, too. I've been famous for a long time. And we're sitting in first class, according to her. Never happened, by the way. Totally made up story. She's a Clinton person, too, by the way. Big Clinton person. She made up the story. And so many years ago, and I think it would be 1979, one of my many people behind me could correct it, but I think she said 1979. That's a long time ago. And I sat down. I believe I had some pretty big success then, and I was being talked about a lot. Maybe The Art of the Deal was out, sometime after that. I'm not sure. But I was well known. And passengers are coming into the plane. And she said I was making out with her. And then, after 15 minutes, and then she changed her story a couple of times, maybe it was quicker, that I grabbed her at a certain part, and that was when she had enough. Now, so think of the impracticality of this. I'm famous. I'm in a plane. People are coming into the plane. And I'm looking at a woman, and I grab her, and I start kissing her and making out with her. What are the chances of that happening? What are the chances? And frankly, I know you're going to say it's a terrible thing to say, but it couldn't have happened. It didn't happen. And she would not have been the chosen one. She would not have been the chosen one. She has gone around for years saying the story. Everywhere I go, she says this story. And it's a total lie. Now, I assume she'll sue me now for defamation like I got sued by E. Jean Carroll, who interestingly said she's been hurt, damaged, but she's made more money since she did this than she ever made in her life. She gets paid a lot of money to go talk bad things about me. So remember this whole thing started, along with just about every other case I'm involved with the political campaign of Harris, and who's having a bad time because she can't talk, of Harris and Joe Biden. This was election interference. It all is. It's all fabricated. But fabricated in front of very friendly judges for them and in very friendly areas for them. If you get a jury, it's very hard to win in a jury where you have 3 or 4 or 5% Republican votes. Very, very tough, actually. 2 witnesses. One is named Jessica Leeds, so she was up again. She can't get rid of her. She was up. She said I was in an airplane doing that. A couple of things. You have an armrest in planes back in those days. Oh, by the way, she didn't know anything about the flight, where we were going. I was in very few flights. I was a New York guy building New York buildings. I was in very few airplanes, I will tell you, in those days. 1979, I think. It's a long time ago. But you had the armrest, and in the old days, they didn't move. Okay? But she said she then got out and she went to the back of the plane, and that was the end of the story, I think. And this story has followed me for years. But just to finish with her, Jessica Leeds, no police reports, no witnesses, no corroboration of any kind, no criminal suggestions, no nothing. Then you have another one, and this one is a writer for People magazine, who I actually thought was very nice. She came to Mar-a-Lago, and she wrote the most beautiful story you've ever seen. It was a love story about Melania and myself, a love story in People magazine. And that was it. It was a cover, I think, but it was a beautiful story. Everybody would love to have that marriage. She said the nicest things about me, about Melania. You have the story. I mean, you can read the story. And her name was whoever. Let's see. Her name was who? Swornoff, yeah. I don't have it. Whatever her name was. I don't know the lady, so perhaps it's much better that way, but I really don't know the lady. So she wrote this beautiful story, and about, I don't know, years later, no police reports, no anything. Years later, the same person they called up, did you attack at Mar-a-Lago this woman, this writer, whatever her name is? And she was a witness in a case. Her and Leeds were the 2 witnesses, only 2 witnesses. Did you attack her? I said, who is she? And they said, she writes for People magazine. I said, I don't know anything about the lady. If I had a story long ago, years before, about People, but it was a very nice story. So I don't know. It has to be made up because I don't know what you're talking about. It turned out that the same lady that wrote this beautiful story years later said I attacked her. Now, think of this. Oh, and she said the butler knew everything. The old expression, the butler did it, right? Very famous in crime stories. Well, the butler was Tony Senecal, worked for me for a long time. He was retired at that time. That was years later. He retired. He was retired when this hoax came out. And what happened is he totally confirmed my story, and he didn't even work for me anymore. He passed away a couple of years ago, a good man. He said the woman was crazy. It never happened. I was the one that served her whatever she was drinking, and I was there, and nothing ever happened. But you don't need the butler. All you have to do is read the story. Think of this. A woman comes into Mar-a-Lago, interviews me about a love story about my wife and myself, and during that interview, I attacked her and pushed her up against the wall violently. Okay? And then she leaves and she writes a perfect story. A perfect story. She doesn't mention the event. Again, there's nothing on file at all. Zero. There was no complaints. There were no complaints to People magazine. There was no witness. There was nothing. Yeah, well, there was a witness, the butler, and he's already said everything. He's already told this story. Because this story, likewise, like Leeds, this story has followed me around. I could go through many other stories outside of this. You know, it's very funny. When you're rich and famous, you get a lot of people come up with a lot of stories. But you're writers, and some of you are legitimate writers, and some of you aren't. Some of you are fake news, and some of you are real news. But put yourself in my position. I'm running for president, and I have all these cases all of a sudden come out. And they're fake cases, and they report back to DOJ. And you have Lisa Monaco, one of the people at DOJ who I saw the other day talking about the Russia hoax. And yet she's friends with Andrew Weissman and that whole group and crew, who should be sued, by the way, because they're not a charity. All they are is a political organization that goes after Trump for the last 8 years. I mean, he's a sick person that runs that, too. But Lisa Monaco is in the Department of Justice, but she's a Andrew Weissman person who's been after me for years. So far, he's failed. And he's having a heart attack because I'm leading in the polls. I guess if you look at the Nate Silver, very respected guy. I don't know him, but he has me up by a lot. So let's say we're leading, or let's say we're tied, or let's say what difference. I'm in the race. It's between two people, but I think we're leading by a lot because the opponent refuses to do an interview because she can't talk. And they're not going to skate through it. I'm not going to have a Marxist president. The people are getting it. So we go down to court today to talk about this case is a scam. And all I can say is that I never met the woman other than this picture, which could have been AI generated. I don't know. Showed up out of nowhere, but it's fine. Nice picture with her husband, and lots of other people are online. It's a celebrity line. But never met her, never touched her, never had anything to do with her. The other thing is I was very famous then. If I would have walked into Bergdorf Goodman, the department store that she said, everybody would have said, oh, there's Trump. And it would have been, at that time, on page 6. Page 6 was the equivalent of today's internet. And it would have been a big story if I would have walked into that store, gone into a dressing room, and supposedly, you know what, to her. Never happened. Never happened. Total phony story. And I feel sad that I have to come up here and explain it. I have all this legal talent, but legal talent cannot overcome rigged judges. They can't overcome a 4% Republican area. And I'm disappointed in my legal talent, I'll be honest with you. They're good. They're good people. They're talented people. Today at the trial, they didn't mention the dress. So the Monica Lewinsky type dress was a big part of the trial. Big part of the trial. I said, why didn't you mention that? And I heard there was a dress involved. And I wasn't frightened at all because I did nothing with her. Never touched this woman, saw this woman, had no idea who she was. But they have a dress, sir. I said, so what? Well, sir, it's very... They used that dress to try and intimidate me, They used that dress with the public. That dress was such a famous dress. It was Monica Lewinsky, Part 2, the dress. And the judge wanted it for trial. And it was going to go into trial. And then they found out there was nothing on the dress, which I knew. And then the judge wouldn't allow it to be used. So they used it as a cudgel. They used it as a hammer over my head. And then the judge, when he heard that it showed totally negative, the judge wouldn't allow us to use it at trial. Then there was an Anderson Cooper interview where she said essentially, no, he didn't rape me. She was selling her book. She wrote a book. The book would have been a total failure, probably was anyway, although probably sold more recently. Again, there's a woman that wasn't doing well until she came out with this stuff about me. And that's happened to others too, by the way. She's not the only one. But they have the Anderson Cooper tape. And in the Anderson Cooper tape, it's an interview of her. And Cooper says something to the effect, did he rape you? Did he rape you? He was so happy. Oh, did he rape you? And she gave a very good answer for me, but a bad answer for CNN, for Anderson. And he said, we're going to commercial break right now. We're going. Then she came back from commercial break, and she was much more hostile. But this man wouldn't let us use the tape or the proper questions having to do with the tape. Wouldn't let us. The Judge Kaplan, wouldn't let it be used. We wanted to get the outtakes. In other words, what did Anderson Cooper talk to her about during that intermission for a commercial that he called for immediately? Where do you see this? I mean, some of you have seen it, some of you haven't. We're going to commercial break right now. And so what happened is we weren't able to use it. The other thing is we had not one trial, we had two trials. Nobody understands why. We asked for a consolidation. And I wanted to show up to the trial, to the first trial. My lawyer, who's not up here, not with us any longer, sir, you should not show up. You're the former president or the president. I don't even know when the trial was, but you're the president of the United States, sir. This is beneath you. I've got this 100%. The dress is negative, but he wasn't able to use it. Sir, it's beneath you to show up. I said, but wouldn't that be bad for a jury? Wouldn't that be sort of bad for a jury if I don't show up? He said, sir, you don't have to show up. I've got this. You shouldn't do it. It's beneath you. It's beneath the office of the president. I understood what he meant by that. And so I didn't show up. And I was found guilty of something that I didn't do with a woman that I have never seen, touched, or in any way was involved with, nor would I want to be. I would not want to be. My people say, please don't say that. I would not want to be involved with her. And that's where we are. So we're appealing it, and people would say it's not a friendly panel based on the appointments, but you'll look that up yourself. But I hope they understand this is the office of the President of the United States, and there has to be fairness shown. Our court system is looking so bad. If you're a Democrat, these are all Democrat-appointed people. Biden, Clinton, I think others. 3 people. They seem very good today, and I mean, they seem absolutely fine, but I've read and I've heard it's not a friendly panel, but I wasn't surprised because I don't get friendly panels. I don't get friendly panels. But where we've had fair judges, where we've had brilliant judges, frankly, I don't know the judge in Florida, Judge Cannon, don't know her at all. But I think she's a brilliant woman. I think she handled a scam. It's a scam case. That's the documents case. That's the case where Biden, who had 10 times more documents, took all this stuff for years, 50 years, and he was exonerated. Of course, they said he was incompetent, so he wasn't fit. So he was exonerated based on that. But me, I don't get exonerated so easily. And I had a thing called the Presidential Records Act, which exonerates me. But we won that trial, and the other side plays the ref. Crew and Weissman and all these people. And again, Lisa Monaco should not be involved in this because she's been after Trump for years, and now she's like the second person at the DOJ. But she's with all these people. And they're playing the ref, and they say terrible things about judges. They do it with the Supreme Court justices because they think they're going to intimidate them. I think it should be illegal. That's what the DOJ should look into, the legality of these people taking a brilliant judge and demeaning her, and taking other people that are fair and solid and demeaning them. It's called playing the ref. Nobody did it better than the late, great Bobby Knight basketball coach. He would play, he would scream at those refs and everything and said, they'd say, Bobby, you're not going to get the decision overturned. Yep, but the next one I will. And he was right. He was a great basketball coach. Last coach to have an undefeated season. Last coach in basketball to have it many years ago. He also endorsed me, but he played the ref. These people are playing the ref when they are allowed to call for recusal, impeachment of a judge because they're not getting their way. And for some reason, the other side doesn't do that. They don't do that. The other side is much softer. Republicans play it a lot softer, but they play it legitimately. So I'm going to ask, if I might, Will Scharf to come up, just say a couple of words about what took place today. One of our attorneys working on this it's a ridiculous case. Remember, it never happened. It was made up for political reasons. And the DOJ is behind everything. Every one of these cases. It's political interference. It's a witch hunt, just like the fake Russia scam was a witch hunt. And just like they want to start that scam all over again by announcing that Russia we're talking about. And you know what they do when they do that? They intimidate people from having a fair election. They intimidate poll workers from speaking up when they see crooked things take place in the election. And it's a disgrace. Our country's in serious trouble. Our judicial system is in very serious trouble. Will, please come up. Thank you.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Will Scharf. I'm one of President Trump's attorneys. Today, we presented oral argument before the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in one of two cases brought against President Trump by E. Jean Carroll. Now, it's really important to remember that E. Jean Carroll's story at its heart is an utterly implausible he said, she said story. There is no corroboration for anything she has ever claimed about President Trump. There are no corroborating witnesses. As President Trump alluded to, there is not confirmatory DNA. No police report was filed at the time of this alleged incident. She was unable to identify when this incident occurred until quite recently. No surveillance evidence or witnesses have ever been found or come forward confirming any aspect of E. Jean Carroll's story. In light of that, in light of the utter implausibility of the story that E. Jean Carroll was attempting to sell to the jury in this case, her attorneys introduced evidence that should have never seen the inside of a courtroom. Utterly insane efforts to introduce propensity witnesses, Jessica Leeds and Natasha Stoynoff, most notably, in an unfair and improper effort to buttress E. Jean Carroll's failed attempt to assault President Trump. Jessica Leeds' story is instructive here. This is a woman who claims that in the middle of a crowded airliner in 1979, President Trump assaulted her. Leeds has never been able to identify where this plane departed from, where it went to, the date of the flight in question, making our efforts to disprove her testimony extremely difficult. Under the federal rules of evidence, This story should have never been allowed to be presented to the jury in this case. The same is true of Natasha Stoynoff's story, which again lacks any indicia of reliability, any sort of credibility, any sort of confirmatory testimony from other witnesses, or anything else that would make you believe that this actually happened. So on the one hand, you have a judge who allowed in this improper propensity evidence that should not have been allowed in. In our view, that polluted the jury's deliberations in this case. That presented a story to the jury of a series of a pattern of conduct that the jury should not have been considering. And we think that absent that propensity evidence, no fair jury could have reached the verdict that was reached in this case. And as a result, we believe that this verdict needs to be overturned. But there's more than that. In addition to this improper propensity evidence, President Trump and his trial team were prevented from cross-examining E. Jean Carroll and other witnesses on crucial issues in particular relating to political coordination and the political motivation behind this entire lawsuit. This is a lawsuit that was instigated in large part by George Conway, a longtime political foe and adversary of President Trump. This is a lawsuit that was funded by Reid Hoffman, a key political ally of the Biden-Harris administration and a major Democrat donor. We were limited in the evidence we were allowed to present at trial about these crucial facts. We were prevented from cross-examining E. Jean Carroll on aspects of that dynamic that underlies this entire lawsuit. And that, too, unfairly corrupted the jury's deliberations in this case and requires reversal of the jury verdict. I think this political coordination point is particularly important, though. It's important to emphasize, because what we have seen in the last few years is a weaponization by the Biden administration and by their political allies of our legal system and of our courts to unlawfully, unconstitutionally interfere with President Trump's core First Amendment right to run for president. That is a right guaranteed to him by the Constitution. That is the right that his political opponents are attempting to strip away from him. We have seen this in case after case after case, where unfair political motives have underlay what should be serious legal proceedings. And I think when you look at this situation in toto, when you look at what the left, when you look at what the Biden-Harris administration is attempting to do to President Trump, this is insane. This is an absolute abuse of our legal system. It's an absolute abuse of the rule of law. It should be deeply offensive, not just to political supporters of President Trump, but to each and every American. With respect to today's appeal, we are hopeful that the Second Circuit understands what's at stake here. We are hopeful that the Second Circuit understands what occurred during this trial, which was an improper use of evidence to buttress E. Jean Carroll's entirely meritless claims on the one hand, and an improper exclusion of evidence that would have informed the jury about the true motivation behind this lawsuit and that we believe would have resulted in a very different verdict. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I've done this one too many times, actually too many times for the last 3.5 years while President Trump has been trying to fight to get this country back. And I want to speak to the American women, and I want to speak to the people that need to get out and vote on November 5th. I have sat with President Trump for years now, while he has been targeted with lies and with judges, AGs, and DAs who have specifically run in this city and others on getting Trump. The Trump administration will fix this problem. We will stop Kamala Harris's regime, because she was there, let's not forget that, and she still is, of using officials from the White House, putting them in DA's offices, in AG's offices, and attacking your political opponent. And this country deserves better than this. We do. We should not be sitting here at a press conference talking about this. We did this in 2016, and every woman had no reports. They come out when it's election time. And as a woman who has stood with President Trump, who has spent extensive time with President Trump and with his beautiful family, I will tell you, that is not President Trump, and I completely am disgusted by what I have seen happen to this person, his family, and the Trump organization that we stand in right now. You must vote Donald Trump back in, because as an attorney, as a woman, as a mother, our future of this country depends on it, and we need to stop this from happening. The DOJ is supposed to help our country and protect us, not attack us, because you cannot win in the polls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both. And just in finishing this, we have numerous other trials that are also very much in coordination with the DOJ. They actually took just about their top person and they put him into the offices of the Attorney General of New York, and then also the office of the DA Bragg's office, to make sure the case is brought viciously against their political opponent. And it's a shame. It's a shame. Businesses will not come to New York because of it. They actually, in the case of Engoron, they used a consumer frauds case, never used before for a thing like this. And not only were my numbers correct, and again, this was a generality. All you need is a general, but I had really good numbers, but they were very conservative, very much on the low side. And the judge knew that. And the judge ruled a fine against me, the likes of which has never even been heard of. Businesses will never come to this state as long as that is able to be held up, because we won that trial so conclusively. We had an expert witness said that President Trump's financial, this was an expert witness from the Stern School of Business, one of the most highly respected people in the country, as an expert witness. He said, to the best of my remembering, it's a big statement, but he said, this is perhaps the best financial statement I've ever seen. But the judge made me pay like a $400 million fine. This is a consumer fraud statement. Think of it. Consumer frauds case that they made it in. The judge refused to give it over to the commercial division where they could understand things, and they would have dismissed it immediately because this case had no merit whatsoever. The judge wanted to settle the case for a very much smaller amount, and I said, I'm not going to settle. I didn't do anything wrong. But he would have settled the case for a much smaller amount. He wanted to settle it for a much more. We had numerous meetings in his office for a fraction of the number that he gave. That was one of the interesting things. I figured that the worst that you could do is what he wanted to settle for, which was a very small number by comparison. And then he just came out with this number. This was a coordination with the DOJ. And the other case that you know about and you've been hearing about, which is same kind of a thing, also in coordination, is the Bragg case. And they actually wanted to put them together in New York. They wanted to put the DA case together with the Attorney General case, but they both wanted credit. They couldn't understand, they both wanted credit, so they had their own cases. And it's very corrupt in New York, and very, very corrupt. It's a very corrupt place and doing very badly. But when people see what happened, and when they see, I've had so many calls from business people saying, this is just terrible. Today, there was a story about somebody in Southern District who's highly respected, knocking the hell out of both of those cases, say it's an embarrassment they were allowed to be brought. And I'm going to write out a list of things from Alan Dershowitz, Andrew McCarthy, Greg Jarrett, some of the greatest people, all legal scholars, great people, Jonathan Turley, like 10 highly respected, the most highly respected people that quote Calabrese, Judge Calabrese, that quote on cases, and shockingly, they can't even believe it. They said this case should not have been allowed to be brought, and that's about pretty much both cases, but it's about the case that we have in front of Judge Mershon. That case is a disgrace. Should have never been allowed. I did nothing wrong. And he took a non-existent, expired, long expired by the statute of limitations, misdemeanor. He made it into 34 or something more than that counts of felony Nobody can even believe it. Over nothing. And if you look at that case, he wouldn't allow it. That whole thing was done by an attorney. I had nothing to do with it. That was done by an attorney, a sleazebag named Michael Cohen. And he did the whole thing. And you're allowed to have reliance on attorney. It's called reliance on attorney. You have a reliance on attorney. Attorney's allowed to do things. And all it was is a non-disclosure agreement with somebody that said nothing happened, by the way. I might add that. If you don't mind, I'll add that. We have a statement, nothing happened. And he got a non-disclosure agreement. He did it on his own, and this judge refused to allow us to use that as a defense, the attorney-client defense, which is very standard. Other people have never heard that you're not allowed to use it. But he's the one that did it because I was running for president and running the country. He's the one that did it. So all of these cases are a disgrace. But the case that we had today, downtown, I wish we could have mentioned the dress. Again, got the idea from Monica Lewinsky, but it was negative, wasn't allowed to be used. I wish we could have mentioned many of the other things, and I certainly wish we could have gone to CNN and got the outtakes, what's called the outtakes. What did Anderson Cooper tell her during the commercial? I'd love to find that out. So that's where we are. We have a very corrupt system of laws, but in that system we have some very good judges also, and I think in the end the good judges will prevail. And I hope Democrat-appointed judges can see a scam like this where somebody just makes up a story, probably out of Law and Order. I don't know. She made it up out of somewhere. But check out the Law and Order episode that we're talking about. Make up a story, and I end up getting sued. And by the way, the punishment is like $89 million and wouldn't have two cases. It should have been one case. But two cases is better because you get double bad publicity. We asked the judge, could you consolidate the cases, same case? And he refused to do so. He wanted two cases. So two cases, two sets of lawyers, two everything. It's really, really very disgraceful. Let me talk about job numbers because, as you know, they just came out and they're a basic disaster. They are really bad. You had numbers that are shocking. Native-born Americans, we lost 1.3 million jobs, while foreign-born Americans were able to take all of those jobs. So foreigners coming in illegally, largely illegally, into our country, took the jobs of native-born Americans. And I've been telling you that's what's going to happen. Because we have millions and millions of people pouring into our country, many from prisons and jails and mental institutions and insane asylums. Traffickers, human traffickers, women traffickers, sex traffickers, which, by the way, that's the kind of thing that people should be looking at because it's horrible. And it's turning out that migrant crime is far worse than any crime that we've ever experienced. If you look at Aurora, Colorado, they're taking over the place. They took over buildings, and this is just the beginning. You haven't seen anything yet. You haven't seen any. They've allowed well over 20 million people, in my opinion. The other people say, well, it's only 13. No. It's much more than 20. I think it's much more than 20. Our country is being invaded because of incompetent people like Kamala that doesn't want to do one interview. She does one softball interview with CNN. Couldn't have been nicer. Dana Bash, you know what? I gained respect for Dana Bash and for Jake Tapper because in my interview with Sleepy Joe, I thought they were very fair, actually. I was surprised. They were very fair. I'm going into very hostile territory shortly on a debate with ABC, George Slopadopoulos and that group. And ABC, I think, is the worst of everybody. I think they're the worst. They're the nastiest. They're as bad as you can be. They're worse than NBC, which is saying a lot. And We have something coming. And the reason I'm doing it is because that's the only one that she would do it with, because her best friend is the head of ABC or ABC News, and her husband's best friend is married to that one. So, and Donna Brazile is there. You remember the famous Donna Brazile? She gave Hillary Clinton the questions. You remember that? That was a little embarrassing. She got fired, I assume, for that. But now she's working at ABC. So I said, I'll do it anyway, because even if she knows the answers and knows the questions, I don't think she'll be very good. And this is not what our country wants. And I feel I have an obligation to do it. And she'd never stand up here like this and give a news conference and speak about what's happening with the weaponization of our justice system. This is the weaponization of justice at a level that nobody's ever seen in this country before. We've never seen it. You see it in third world countries, you see it in banana republics, but you don't see it in the United States of America, and it's a very sad thing. And I think I'm doing a great service by having gone through it and revealing it, because, you know, it came out with a indictment from the district attorney, which again, just revealed today, and I hope you're going to do a story because it's a big story. The Southern District of New York was, and this is a very highly respected group of people. He said it was a disgrace that that case was brought. It was a disgrace that the case was brought in front of Mershon. The case is a disgrace. Should have never been brought. Should have never been brought. And the case in front of Judge Engoron, just in terms of the case itself, we had 4 or 5 overturns in the appellate division. I only hope the appellate division, for the good of New York, otherwise you just say, God save the state. For the good of New York, I hope that the appellate division will do what's right on that case, because that case was a scam. But every single one of these cases that I'm mentioning, they're all hoaxes and scams. No different than Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 the impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, all these things that we won. We won them all. But it takes time, it takes effort. And they're at it again. But this time, what they're doing is they're hitting us as hard as possible. You know, it's very interesting. It just brings to light the lawyer on the hoax that we're talking about now, having to do with E. Jean Carroll. She said, the way to defeat Trump is go after him civilly as often as possible, make his life miserable, sue him all the time, keep him in court, and let him spend a fortune. That's the lawyer I have in the E. Jean Carroll case. And that's exactly what they've done. The only thing I can say that's good about it is the public understands. And my poll numbers, I believe, are higher now than they would have been without it, because the public understands it's a hoax, it's a scam, it's a political witch hunt, and some of you should be ashamed of yourselves. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
All right, you saw there President Trump speaking for about an hour. Didn't take many questions at all from the press, but we do know, of course, he's refuting all of the lawfare cases coming against him and the Trump administration there. So, Bobby, I mean, we know it's been lawfare since day one.
No question about this, and this is really evolving around E. Jean Carroll, and I hate giving her a name and a presence with all of this because, quite frankly, it's just not the truth. And President Trump's legal team laying it out point blank. This has been happening since 2016. It's ridiculous. It's untrue. And hopefully the New York Appellate Court will handle these cases appropriately. But President Trump saying and using common sense, I was very recognizable, very famous. If I were to do these horrible acts that the plaintiffs are speaking of, then I probably would have been noticed. And we had mentioned off camera just the way the celebrity status was for President Trump, not only now, but many years ago, being on different movies, different television shows, of course, The Apprentice, people would have noticed something and would have complained back in 1979, the 1980s, the 1990s, and so on.
Exactly.
Just ridiculous.
100%. I agree with you, but also the CNN interview with Anderson Cooper and E. Jean Carroll. All you have to do is watch that a few times, and you'll see what Bobby was just talking about there. President Trump saying, quote, this was election interference. It all is, referring to all of the cases against him, which is simple, against the American people and against the Constitution and against freedom, because President Trump stands for all of these things. So we see right through it. Here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. I know many of you see right through it as well. So we do want to thank some of our sponsors. Before we do, this stream will end in a little bit, and then we'll start at 2 p.m. Eastern as President Trump goes from New York City to Charlotte, North Carolina for a speech there at 4 o'clock. Eastern. So our coverage will start again at 2. So we'll see you on that stream in just a bit. Until then, we do want to thank our friends at Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold Group, text Trump to 989898 as we get our free Fight silver coins ready right here.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. You can get one of these coins by working with Birch Gold Group, getting one of their products. Of course, it's gold, silver, precious metals, always great for a backup to the fluctuating U.S. dollar.
And for any collector, what a coin you have. You have Fight on the top there, President Trump's iconic photo flanked by Secret Service agents and the American flag in the background, reminding us to fight, 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 and the date of the attempted assassination that, thank God, did not take place. Of course, our thoughts and prayers still with Corey Campatore's family, the heroic firefighter who literally shielded his wife and children. You don't expect things like that to happen, but it did, and may God be with him and may his rest be eternal in heaven. Always thinking about that family that has suffered so much.
Amen, and I believe Corey looking down on us as well as a believer. So that coin there is the free Fight silver coin. On the other side of it is the White House. Very cool coin. So in the 2 p.m. broadcast, Bobby and I will be here with you. For the North Carolina broadcast, we're actually going to give you a closer look at the silver coin. So we'll see you over there. But more importantly, of course, President Trump speaking to the Fraternal Order of Police at 4 o'clock. So we'll have that other stream shortly. Also, MyPillow.com, the great Mike Lindell. We keep saying the great Mike Lindell, but it's true. The guy is loved by so many of you out there. We love him at the network as well. And all of his products, Bobby, are quite awesome.
They're spot on. They help me get a good night's rest to help prepare to bring you the real news and all the action going on at RSBN covering President Trump from beginning, middle, and end of all his different events. But go to mypillow.com/RSBN, up to 80% off of most items in the store. Of course, you can see on your screen, Mr. Mike Lindell has extended his Labor Day mattress sale, where you can get a great savings on a beautiful mattress, $439.99. You're saving up to 50%, then another $100 off. This guy, he's a master marketer, a friend of the Constitution, a lover of liberty, and one of the biggest advocates for election integrity.
So use the promo code RSBN for a discount there. Also, speaking of Right Side Broadcasting Network, all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801 if you'd like to donate to the network at all the lights, the cameras, the behind the scenes, the camera op that you just saw those visuals from New York City, all the flights, everything. We're not bought and paid for by any woke corporations. We've got great sponsors here, but if you do have a couple extra few bucks, always great to donate if you'd like. Texting RSBN to 801-801. That's RSBN 801-801. Bobby McNeely, your thoughts going forward as we look forward to North Carolina today at 2 o'clock?
Well, it's a law and order day, clearly, and President Trump is amped from that press conference, saying he really shouldn't have to do this. His legal team, Alina Habba especially, leading that charge, saying he does not have to do this. I've been doing this from 2016. This is all ridiculous. It's lawfare. It is election interference. And President Trump is innocent. but we're so grateful to have a fighter, someone who's willing to persevere, take the bullets, including his family as well, who has been targeted by attorneys general like Letitia James. And you think about Fani Willis in Fulton County using the RICO laws in such a flagrant violation and wild fashion to try and take down President Trump, who's done nothing but attempted to make America great again. And I'm excited to see him flanked by law enforcement today in North Carolina, getting the support of the union in our beautiful North Carolina, a beautiful state, 16 electoral votes, so important for this election.
Very important. So that speech again, 4 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see you right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network on the North Carolina stream at 2 o'clock Eastern. For Bobby McNeely, I'm Matthew Alvarez, America. We'll see you in a little bit.
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk. Don't forget to catch the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show right here on RSBN. That's right, RSBN. Now that's Right Side Broadcasting Network. Okay? See y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Hi folks, RSBN founder and CEO Joe Seals here. Did you know there is nearly $1 trillion of infrastructure and pandemic funds yet to be spent? That's right, there's a massive amount of money that the lame duck administration is pushing hard to spend in their last few months. If the president is able to push these funds out, we could see another prolonged inflation surge, just like during COVID. And I'm sure you remember the terrible effects that high prices had on most Americans. But there's hope. A surge in prices can be beaten. A gold IRA from Birch Gold Group is the ultimate inflation hedge for your savings in uncertain times. To see how to protect your IRA or 401k, get your free info kit on gold by texting the word Trump to 989898. Birch Gold makes it seamless to roll over your retirement account while preserving your tax advantage status. Don't wait for the president's spending spree to tank the dollar further. Protect your financial future now. Text Trump to the number 989898 for your free info kit from Birch Gold.
Welcome to the Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're not like the other media outlets out there that cut and edit what other people say. In 2015, we were created by our founder, Joe Seals, to cover President Donald J. Trump's speeches and rallies, to which we continue to do to this day. We've also covered important conservative events like CPAC, TPUSA, March for Life, and many other important events and hearings around the country. We were made for people like you, everyday Americans who are tired of the mainstream media, who are tired of being lied to, manipulated, and fed an agenda. Our goal here at Right Side Broadcasting is to allow you to see the truth, giving our correspondents and commentators a wide latitude to speak their minds. You won't find anything like this in the mainstream media. Your support through your donations, locals, and supporting our advertisers allows us to continue to cover important events around the country each and every day. So, from us here at Right Side Broadcasting, thank you for supporting us and the right side of history.